Welcome to another episode of OG 55. I am joined by the Italiano and Mr. Seymour Duck. We are breaking down the latest Disney earnings call. There was a lot to dive into today. Up next on OG 55.
I ain't got nothing to say but West Side.
Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. We are breaking down that Disney quarterly earnings call. It dropped today. There's a lot to discuss. Mr. Seymour Duck, it is always good to have you on the show, brother. Welcome back, sir.
Hello. Glad to be back with you guys and nerd out and talking about these numbers for Disney today.
Absolutely. If you can let everybody at home, Seymour, where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, you can find me on MrDuck.social, where you can find all my social media links, such as X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky.
There he is. And the Italiano, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And as Seymour said, I'm ready to dive in and talk some quarterly earnings and some numbers, because apparently no one else is talking about it because the numbers are actually good.
Yeah, well, you know, there's nothing sexy about good numbers, George. Let's be honest, right? Let's be honest. Okay, so this is as of today. The Walt Disney Company reports first quarter earnings call for fiscal 2025. So it says here, I'm going to kind of go down some of the key points here real quick before we kind of dive into the nitty gritty here. Entertainment. Operating income increased 0.8 billion to 1.7 billion. Direct to consumer operating income increased from 431 million to 293 million. You got Hulu and Disney Plus, 178 million subscriptions, an increase of 0.9 million versus Q4. Content sales, licensing, and other operating income increased 536 million to 312 million. Sports. Something I don't really care about. I mean, if it was up to me, the Super Bowl, Kendrick would just perform his entire album. They wouldn't play a single minute of football. But there are people out there that actually do like sports. And operating income increased 350 million to 247 million. So, Seymour. So this was okay. So the quarterly earnings call dropped today. I want to get your overall kind of thoughts and immediate kind of impressions as to what you thought of this call. And also, we can also dive into the impact it had on the stock today. What say you, Mr. Duck?
They had great earnings. If you look at Jack's tweet.
Yeah, I got you right here, brother.
And you'll see this basically sums it up real easily. That their operating income went up 31%. Year over year, 5.06 billion. That's incredible, and mostly because of the entertainment side has now improved significantly compared to 2023. And 2023 was one of Disney's weakest year, and now you're starting to see that it's still growing. And revenue, it's modest growth at 5%, which means people are still spending money at Disney.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk out there, you know, that this company was going to take a hit for many, many years because the brand was so damaged, you know. And look, I understand that theory or philosophy or what have you, but Disney is 100-year-old company. I've said this so many times. An off year, even an off 2 or 3 years, isn't something that's going to necessarily like shake the Walt Disney Company's brand image. You know, you have to really have like a decade worth of just total like garbage to like really put a dent. Disney isn't just a normal company. Disney is a cultural phenomenon like we've never really seen. I mean, it's so connected to like American pop culture and just so much. It would take a lot to cause major brand damage, I think, for this company. And we're seeing the proof here. In 2023, they did have an off year. Yes, like every other studio on the planet, it had an off year. Okay. But now they're rebounding, just like they've had in the past. So Seymour, to your point, this is good to see. So, but yeah, go ahead, Seymour. I'm sorry, brother.
And I was just going to say, a lot of people were messaging me on X for saying, well, what about their losses? I'm like, what do you mean their losses? This includes the costs. This is their operating income, which is operating profits. Another way of saying it. So this is their profits that are coming in from their business. This is it. This includes all the losses, quote unquote, even though you don't call it losses, you call them costs. And the loss comes after the fact of it's either profit or not profit. And they made over 5 billion in profits from their operations. So this is really good. This is significantly good. Yeah. And it's still doing better than Netflix, ironically, but the market for some reason, doesn't think it that way.
Well, let's speaking of that. This is what we have today, right? So Walt Disney Company was down $2.76. Excuse me, it was down $2.76 as of closing, which comes to about 2.44%. There's a lot of talk on social media about this drop, this 2%, 2.44%. Seymour, a lot of talk. Now, it must have been significantly higher than the drop that Comcast had, right, when they had their earnings call, right? Because it seems like more people are talking about this one.
Not exactly. Comcast had 13% down, and nobody cared. Nobody cared that the stock went down 13%. But Disney goes down over 2% slightly. It's over. The sky is falling.
Yeah, we were talking pre-show, Seymour, and this loss, so right, is what you would see on a regular Monday without an earnings call. I mean, it's not a significant impact.
No,
it's pretty typical, right? I mean, it's nothing extraordinary here. You know?
And I recommend anyone who wants to go in investing to read a book by Ben Graham, Intelligent Investor. He will tell you that he calls the market Mr. Market, and he will tell you that it's emotional, moody, irrational. It never makes sense. In the short term, it's a voting machine. In the long term, it's a weighing machine. So, it might look weird in the short term with these short-term price fluctuations. But in the long term, if the business keeps consistently getting better, which we're seeing with Disney, then that's all it really matters. If you're focusing on the short term, then essentially it's just, and especially if you keep going on X and saying, look, stock is down 2% today, then it's almost like clickbait because it really has no effect.
Right. Yeah, unless you're like one of these like a day trader where
exactly. If you're a day trader, then yes. If you're trading options in the short term, yes. But if you're an actual long-term investor, the 2% is nothing. I've seen the stock go down like 20% when Bob Chapek's last earnings call, which got him fired. That one was very newsworthy. This one, no.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was actually on the Disney Wonder, the cruise ship, when that happened, and I was watching the TV in our room, and I was like, "Oh God, this is not good." that was scary. Then he got fired not too long after that on a Sunday.
Yeah, wasn't he watching Elton John live or something when he got the news?
Yeah, exactly. Everyone kind of remembers where they were at when that happened. Like I was at a Friendsgiving, and I'm like sitting at the table. I'm going, "What the heck? That can't be true." Variety, Deadline, The Wrap, they're all reporting. I'm like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. But George, where were you when you got the news that Chapek got fired? Do you remember?
I was at work. I was still working at Hallmark at the time.
Oh wow!
And I got a notification. My phone. I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket, and I looked at it like breaking news. It said something like Chapek released from the Walt Disney Company, and I started reading the article, and I told my coworkers, like, I need to run in the back for a second. Like, can you cover like the front for me while You know, it's like I got to deal with this kind of work before I get into the Hallmark work. So.
We got to deal with some serious business, you know. Now, I do want to say real quick too before George, you start. DSNY Jack is a friend of the channel, absolutely a friend of the channel. He's been on here many times. We love Jack, and these beautiful graphics, kind of like, you know, showcasing the numbers in a very digestible way, all due to Jack. So I want to just give him a big shout out for that and giving us the blessing to use them on the show. So Jack, thank you so much, brother. We do appreciate you. Go ahead, George.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of like putting it all together of what you and Seymour were saying, like the numbers, they're very steady, you know, they're very healthy. And I feel that even to when Disney had admitted to us in prior, you know, earnings calls saying, you know, 2025, you know, we're going to see, you know, dips in certain areas, you know, it's still, we're starting to see growth, you know, continuous. And even if we take the parks and experiences, you know, it dipped down 5% of the domestic parks because of the hurricanes, but the overall experiences went up 3%. If you look at Disney Plus, yeah, all people are talking about the streaming service lost 700,000 subscribers, which is still a very small dent of how many subscribers there are. Plus, they're not paying attention to the Hulu subscribers that are attached to the streaming service as well. So when you only look at through one optic of the numbers and not through the whole scope, Disney still comes out on top without it being too diminishing.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up, and Seymour has brought that up a lot too. And I love when you guys talk about that because it is very important to look at the overall picture, the overall health of the company. It's like looking at your blood work. You know what I'm saying? Your blood work, when you get your blood work, there's all these numbers and ratios and what have you. But those ratios change or matter differently depending on what your other stuff looks like. So your A1C, for example, right? That number might have more significance or less significance if some other numbers are off. You know what I'm saying? So it's a whole piece that you have to look at. It's not just that one number because, you know, look, that one number might be off, you know, a little bit. Maybe it's a little high, maybe a little low, but in context with your other blood work, your other numbers, it actually is pretty good in context, right? So same thing with the company. It's like your blood work. You have to look at all of it. You know what I'm saying? You can't just look at laser vision. Well, that's bad. You know, so we're going to just focus on that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you have to look at the overall context and what the whole story is really telling. So we move on to the experiences division, which we cover a lot here on the channel, you know, theme parks, cruises, all that good stuff. Gross revenue, 9.4 billion, plus 3% year-over-year change. Pretty good. Operating income, 3.1 billion, 0% year-over-year change. So pretty flat. Mr. Seymour Duck, what are your thoughts on the experiences division, sir?
Not surprising. It's not surprising at all. Because they stated in their last quarterly earnings report that parks were going to be weakened. And I'm just surprised that this was actually more negative. That since it's flat, I'm actually surprised because of that. It was actually much stronger than I anticipated.
So you thought you were going to see more like underwater, not so much a flat line, but
exactly. And I sometimes when that happens, they like to sandbag CEOs and CFOs within the company just to ensure that our expectations are not too high. So when they say that the parks are weakening, you might see a drop off, and then you see results saying, "Oh, it's only flat." It's because they want to ensure that if it does ever happen, that we're not surprised by it. I'm surprised by the opposite, so that it didn't go down, that it was flat. Technically, it's like 0.1% up or something like that in operating income. But still that the revenue is still grown overall. People are still spending their money. Again, with revenue, it means that money coming in from consumers. So people are still spending money at Disney, even though every quarter, every year, I hear that the parks are empty. But yet people are still spending money. We're canceling the parks. Nobody's going. Yet somehow someone is spending money. It's like that that meme with Nickelback. How come they're doing great with sales if everyone hates Nickelback?
Right, exactly. Well, hey, we have a video dropping. We have a video dropping tomorrow at 2 p.m. Mr. Webb and I did a quick little video on Disneyland or Disney Parks in the rain, if it's worth going in the rain. And our friend Theme Park Obsession had a picture from like last week or something when we had that rainstorm out here in California. The park was freaking packed, and it's raining. I mean, even in the damn rain, these parks are like, busy, so people still love this brand. They still love these theme parks. And despite all the complaining about Lightning Lane and the inefficiencies of all this other stuff going on and the apps and all that stuff, people are still coming in droves, and these numbers are solid. They're very, very solid. What say you, George? Experiences. What say you?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised as well. What Seymour was saying, that it actually just kind of evened out, which is a good thing. I'd rather just, not make any kind of changes, opposite than, seeing like a significant drop. But that's very smart on Disney's behalf, to kind of always aim either high or low of the expectation. So that way, if it does break even, then yeah, it's basically Disney covering their own ass. Like I do the same thing. Like if I'm budgeting something, I always like budget onto the high note. So if I come under, then it's like, okay, well then I saved however much, that I anticipated. That's basically what Disney did on a grand scale of their earnings, their quarterly earnings. But also too, I wanted to touch upon really quick, even to the cruise line that's part of the experiences. Disney had stated, just with the Disney Treasure, the newest Disney ship that came online December 21st, it's already making major impact of sales and no pun intended, sales. And
no pun intended, the Disney Treasure is making a lot of money, huh?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And by what Disney's anticipating by Q2 of 2025, it would be just the Treasure alone bringing in the full revenue of what they were expecting for a full year. So, I mean, the numbers for Disney Cruise Line are even bringing the experiences up to par.
The cruise line is really its own thing, and we've said that a few times here on the channel in the past year or so, where it's becoming so big now. It's not even like when it initially came online, so to speak. My mind was like, okay, this is part of the theme park arm of the company, but the cruise line now is its own brand almost. Its own entity. It's massive. And honestly, after going, I'm a believer. I am an absolute believer. I mean, I just love the cruise line. I knew I would like it, but I didn't know I was going to love it the way I did. It's just a beautiful experience. And honestly, I go on that ship and I don't even really care about look, I can visit Mickey Mouse at the parks. Okay. I don't need to go see Pirate Mickey on the Wonder. You know what I'm saying? I don't care, but I love everything is so nice. You sit on your veranda, you watch the water, the sea life, and Disney does this great with the customer service. The cast is amazing. The restaurant experiences are fantastic, like the Marvel restaurant, the Frozen one on the Wish, the Tiana's Palace over there on Wonder. It's a great overall experience. I really did fall in love with it. Seymour, one of these days, man, we're gonna take you on the cruise line. We're gonna have like an OG55 like cruise line experience, bro. I think you would love it.
I'll go to the OLC one once that's ready, because it's a Japanese one, so I wouldn't mind that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. George, you'll find Seymour and I flirting with the Japanese girls at the bar. So if you need us, we'll be over there.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But Mr. Seymour Duck, what are your thoughts on these on this entertainment results? 10.8 billion, not plus 9% year-over-year change. 1.7 billion plus 95% year-over-year change for operating income. What are your thoughts on that, brother?
People are still watching Disney. They're still spending their money and watching Disney. And we discussed that 2023 was a weak year for Disney. So this number, 95% going up, is not surprising, because now once you bring in the quality, the numbers show up. And that's what you have here. And it's also if you could look at the earnings report under entertainment, if it's
Yeah.
possible.
I got you.
You scroll down to entertainment.
Let me see here. Entertainment.
Yeah, it's a
Give
bit
me- further
it's a
down.
bit- yeah,
Right here.
right there. Yeah.
Okay.
If you look down here, you'll see that the only thing that actually went down was linear. Everything else went up. So if you look at even for revenue, for direct to consumer, 9% up, but then direct to consumer went from negative 138 million to a positive 293 million, right? And then the movies as well, which is under content sales, 224 million negative, right? Into a positive 312 million. So everything has gone up except for linear, which we all know linear is on a path of dying. Slowly, a slow death, but it's happening. Disney is trying its best to use its assets and make as much as they can with it. But I think it's going to be like the way of books and newspapers. It's still going to exist, but it's just not going to be as big as everyone as it used to be.
Yeah. I agree with that assessment. Oh, go ahead, Seymour. Sorry.
But yeah, I just wanted to say that the movies and the streaming has gone back up. The positive.
Good. Yeah, I know. Absolutely. Now, what is it with this talk about the Disney Plus numbers went down, I guess, 700,000 in subs or something like that. What are your thoughts on that in relation to Hulu and all that other stuff?
If you can scroll down too, there's key metrics. You can see Disney Plus and Hulu.
I got you. Was it right here or
I think just under it.
Okay, here we go.
On page 6.
Key metrics. There we go.
Yeah, right there. So domestic, they actually grew 1% on Disney Plus. Internationally, they decreased by 2%. So they lost 700K subscribers, but they did have a price increase. So that was like one of the biggest reasons for that, and the password sharing policy as well. So that all these things got implemented, and so there was a decrease of signups. But they also signed up 1.6 million subs for Hulu. So that basically, but some people don't think Hulu is Disney. Yeah, it is. Even the CFO today, Hugh Johnson, was like, yeah, Hulu will definitely be merged with Disney Plus. Disney Plus is going to be the hub that you go in for all Disney, and Hulu is Disney. He even himself said that like everything, general entertainment from the 20th Century Studios, FX, that's Disney now. It's been 6 years. They're part of Disney. That's like saying Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, ABC, ESPN is not Disney. They're Disney. And this future with general entertainment is Disney.
Well, and it's interesting, Seymour, because when it's something successful, like Hulu, it's successful, right? Oh, that's not Disney. That doesn't count. Okay, well, like you said, Lucasfilm. People blame Disney completely for that, right? So that's in the same boat as a Hulu. It was purchased. It was bought. So how come Lucasfilm is Disney's fault when things go south, but Hulu isn't Disney, and Disney doesn't deserve the credit when things go up? I mean, look, I'm just saying, like, I think people need to be consistent here. Just pick a lane and stick with it. Okay? If we're going to blame Disney for all the shit going on at Lucasfilm, a thing they bought, Lucasfilm, the studio they bought, then Hulu on the up is also courtesy of the Mouse House, Disney, right? You can't have it both ways. You can't cherry pick this stuff. You know what I'm saying? At least just be consistent, you know? So that's a great point, Seymour, 1000%. So yeah. So now any word, Seymour, I haven't really been following it too much. Any word on that Comcast thing with the payout, the $9 billion, or have we heard any updates on that?
Nope.
Okay.
No update on that yet. When they're ready, they will talk about it.
Yeah,
they're taking their sweet time, but yeah, Disney. If you can go back to that page.
Sure.
Just one little thing.
Sure.
If you scroll down just slightly, right there. Yeah. You can see that their profitability for like the average revenue per user has been going up. So, for example, domestically 4%, internationally 6%. So they're going up, and then you see that Hulu makes the most money, right, out of per user. And if, like Hugh Johnson said, it's going to get merged into Disney Plus, our way of thinking of Disney Plus numbers are going to change dramatically because you're going to have this $12.52 in there with the domestic Disney Plus, and the headlines are gonna change. It's not going to be about, oh, they're not making as much money anymore. It's going to about, can they sustain growth?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. That's going to change the game, Seymour, when that happens, you know? So, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and I find it ironic because on X today, they're talking about how the growth for Disney is not there because they lost 700K subscribers, yet Hulu gained 1.6 million. But before, when Disney Plus, like the streaming sector wasn't profitable, it's about, oh, they're growing, but they're not profitable. Now they flip-flopping is like, oh, they're profitable, but they're not growing. It's like, what? They're not focused on growth right now. They're focused on profitability.
Yes, and that's been the story now for a long time with not just Disney, the whole industry.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Go ahead, Seymour. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, and I was going to say, with Disney, what they can do is they can shift in other areas where growth is going to be needed. So
Right.
if you notice how they're focusing on profitability for the streaming services, they're going to look more for growth in the experiences side, which is why you're seeing more cruises, more park attractions, because, you know, we're looking at their operating income and it's flat. So they're going to try to improve that while, you know, keeping this as the biggest cash cow they have now. So like that's what's a great thing about Disney is they have this flywheel. They can go to every little sector of the company and they can focus. You know, people were saying that, oh, Disney Plus and the streaming is not profitable and they're just focusing on too much on the parks and making the profits. Well, now this is now making the profits and now they can focus on the parks and making the growth.
Exactly. And yes, I've been saying this for a long time, Seymour, too, that flywheel. They all kind of help each other out. Like when we had the pandemic and you couldn't go to the theme parks and you couldn't go to movie theaters, it was the streaming service that kept that whole thing afloat, you know? And then when we started to come back into the parks and into the cruises and into the theaters again, okay, those divisions started to buoy the lackluster streaming stuff because people were kind of like tired of streaming, you know, after the pandy. So these things ebb and flow, and that's the beauty, and that's why Disney has lasted so long as a company. When one thing kind of dips, you have this other thing to come in and sort of offset that. That's the beauty of the flywheel. 1,000%, Seymour. And okay, so we talked about entertainment, 10.8 billion. Now we're going over to. Oh, go ahead.
Does George have anything to say?
Oh, I'm sorry, George. I do apologize. Entertainment, brother. What say you, sir?
Yeah,
Thanks,
for
Seymour.
me, I mean, basically, I mean, Seymour like covered like everything again. Like, I mean, Seymour comes in with the numbers. So, like, but yeah, it's good to see because I feel like the entertainment section of the company was kind of on a struggle bus, you know, for a little bit, you know, but due to the fact of, you know, the outcome of what came, you know, from 2020 and, you know, even moving into 2021, you know, partial of 2022, it took a lot of people just focus on, you know, the pandemic and the shutdowns like of 2020, but it also reoccurred and had a connection between like several years after that. So it's
Right.
good to see, you know, Disney coming, you know, back into its own in 2024. I mean, Disney was the top dog, you know, in box office receipts with Inside Out 2, with Deadpool and Wolverine, with Moana 2, hell, even Mufasa made, you know, revenue into the theater. So I mean, they're a powerhouse, and as you said, OG, you know, it's a very unique. Disney is in a very unique position that when something is kind of dipping temporarily, you know, they have other, you know, sectors that can kind of hold the weight, so to speak.
Well said. Exactly. That's the beauty of the machine that they built here with this thing. Sports, Q1 2025 financial results for sports, gross revenue 4.8 billion, flat 0% year over year. Operating income 247 million. Now, what does that NM stand for? Is that no movement, or what is that, Seymour?
It's basically like it's been flat year over year.
Okay. So this is kind of surprising, actually, for me. I'm not a sports guy, like I said. I don't watch any of it. But I mean, what's going on with this, Seymour? Why the sports numbers so flat?
I think what's happening is that everyone's moving more digital, and the growth for that sector is not going to happen until they release their full ESPN streaming service later this year.
Yeah.
Right now, majority of the sports that's coming in, it's coming in from the legacy like linear, so cable and cable and all that, IPTV. Yeah, so like the growth, you'll see growth coming in, and they're also partnering up with Fubo TV. So there's that adventure as well that's coming in. There's a lot of changes that's happening for sports, and even today, again, on the earnings call, they were talking about how Disney Plus, they want to put a lot of sports, not sports like live events per se, but more sports related shows that talks about sports on Disney Plus, and that wants to be the central hub again. And they're focusing a lot on sports, but I think it's going to happen when they are able to do it fully on digital. Because right now ESPN Plus is like an add-on. You don't get all the live streamings. You don't. It's an additional thing. But once they do the full app, and then able to merge in with Disney Plus, like they're doing currently with Hulu, you're going to see a shift.
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. George, sports. I know you kind of watch. You're kind of a fan of your Pittsburgh Steelers, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm not like a super diehard, but like I'll watch like the important games. Yeah, this actually doesn't surprise me too much because kind of piggyback off of what Seymour was saying, it's like Disney's trying to find their sweet spot for the sports. It feels like they're getting into the game. No pun intended. That you know, they're trying to find ways of how, you know, to utilize the streaming service, how to connect the diehard sports fans into the market with the streaming, because I mean it is a big big percentage of people who do watch sports, and there's many different array of sports and what have you, you know, and that could also be kind of tying into you know, tomorrow's move to move Ken Potrock, you know, into like the events coordinator kind of thing. I don't know the exact, like with the Olympics and everything. So I feel like that can kind of tie into this as well, that I think in time, as Seymour was saying, you know, I feel like that the numbers will increase. It's just right now, it's just kind of level-headed, because it's a lot of people, when they think of sports, they don't really think of like, okay, let's go on Disney Plus, you know, and watch it.
Yeah, you guys are right on that. It's very much a transitionary period for this, and once it gets settled in, I think we'll be good. So it'll go on a platform, so I can avoid sports on another platform. You know.
Also, just to mention, they did include Star India in those numbers, and they haven't been investing in that area as much ever since that new venture came out with them and Reliance Industries and Viacom 18. So like that's going to get spun off. So the cost for sports in India would be essentially removed from there once that's all completed. So in their next earnings report, we might see it not be included, because in their revenue, it was down 90% because Star India, right? It down 90%, and then their profitability actually went up because they weren't spending as much sports, because India sports is expensive to invest in. So when they're not spending as much sports, but you still got people on the platform, you're still making slight profits. But yeah, Star India, a lot of people left that platform because they wanted the cricket's rights, and Disney was not able to spend that money. I think Bob Chapek was the one who didn't sign the deal for like 5 years or so.
Wow.
Because they said it was too expensive. It was like over $5 billion to get cricket's rights to India, where they will never get their money back. It would be a loss later because you only wanted growth. But ironically now, the new venture owns those cricket rights. So now you don't have to pay for any of that stuff because they owned all those sports rights that you wanted in the first place.
There you go. There you go. Well said, Mr. Deck. Oh, go ahead.
So yeah, so you should see a decrease in costs and increase in profitability for that, because of that. So that's why if you see flat now, it might change dramatically in the next quarter for sports.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Good to know. Yeah, that's a big part of this equation, and that's why a lot of this stuff is, that's why I love having you on, Seymour, because you break down the numbers, but you also give a lot of this context and the broader, bigger picture. You have to have that bigger picture when looking at this stuff, because that does impact what we're looking at for right now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad you brought that up. Now, this is courtesy of at Economic App. It says here revenue up plus 5% year over year to 24.7 billion, 150 million beat. Okay. And then he goes on to say here that the fiscal year 25 EPS growth, high single digit, unchanged. Okay. So Seymour, this graph, anything on here noteworthy that we haven't discussed that you kind of want to discuss or break down?
Yeah. So essentially, the consensus was like they beat the top line and bottom line growth. So revenue good, up 5%, and EPS dramatically better. They beat by 33 cents. So those were great numbers. Plus the operating income being so big, right? For 5.1 billion, like that's 5.06, but here they rounded up to 5.1 billion. That's great. These numbers are really good. And it shows that even though like the parks might be a little bit flat, you can see that the movies, the content sales licensing, which is their movies, are up 34%. You can see parks, right? Like 4% here, and then 1% down, flat essentially for the profitability. But then streaming, right, up 9%. You can see all these numbers. And Disney's doing really, really well. The only thing that's really, going down is linear, and you can see it right there, right? But what I like is that streaming, right? As much revenue that is coming in, it's so much more than linear. Linear used to be the powerhouse that was like covering the entertainment sector for revenue. But now direct to consumer, Hulu and Disney Plus, 6.1 billion, that's huge. And mind you, though, this, a lot of people talk about how, but Disney Plus is not as big as Netflix. It doesn't need to be big as Netflix. As you can see in this chart, it's not the whole business. Their parks and experiences makes more money, right? And then you're still getting movies, and you're still getting a little bit of linear and consumer products. So, this is the flywheel in full effect.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly, Seymour. It's like saying, for example, comparing Disney's, I don't know, like as an example, like comparing Disney's like merchandise, like for like dolls that Disney produces or whatever, puts out there in the marketplace, compare that to a company that all they do is make toys. Like, it's like, that's just one element of the Disney puzzle, where this toy company, that's all they do, right? So with Netflix, yeah, all they do is streaming. That's all they do. They don't have parks, none of that. So you're right, Seymour. Disney doesn't have to compete with that necessarily. They don't need to be as big as Netflix, because their entire business model isn't dependent on the streaming service. You have consumer products, parks and experiences, you got linear networks, you got all kinds of stuff here. So again, that matters.
Look how long Netflix has been out, compared to Disney starting their own streaming service.
Right.
Netflix was always the top dog for, everything in the streaming world, because Netflix is the one that kind of, spearheaded it all, So, I mean, people have this expectation because of the, Disney's name and how high quality they are, which they are, but, it's not going to be like an overnight success where it's like, okay, well, after all is said and done, Disney will surpass Netflix. But it's, as, you both were talking about, that's all Netflix does, so of course they'll be the king of streaming because that's all they do, so
yeah, they that's all they do, and they've been doing it for a lot longer than Disney has, so, but that's going to change. I mean, Disney's, merging that Hulu and Disney Plus into one entity is going to be a massive game changer. That's going to change the game. One of the big things that I love Disney, and, obviously, but you're on Disney Plus. Sometimes I want like a good, like, grown-up show. You know what I'm saying? And Hulu will bring that to the equation here. And you don't have to switch. You don't have to switch between apps and all that good stuff. So that as you call it, Seymour, that general entertainment. It's big. It's big. So we'll see. But overall, good earnings call. Anything noteworthy, Seymour, in this call, like news-wise? I didn't really see anything really announced, like when I scanned through this morning.
Just a few things from like the CFO, Hugh Johnson. I've already discussed it, but his quote on CNBC today was like, "The way to think about Disney Plus in the future, it's going to be a portal into all things Disney, and something you really want to turn on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, when you're not watching CNBC, of course."
Yeah, right. Yeah, when you're watching CBC. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then it says it delivers entertainment, it delivers news, it delivers sports, and in the future, it may deliver other things as well.
Okay, interesting. Now, did he throw in that CNBC joke, or was that you, Seymour?
No, that was him. That was him.
Oh wow. Okay. See, I like this guy. I like this guy a lot. I really, really do. That was fun. He has what it takes. And like we talked about, we speculated here, Seymour, about like he's got chops. Like he might be like, if they do that co-CEO thing, I mean, maybe he's one of two CEOs at the top spot, or maybe they'll make him Disney president or something like that. You know, he's a smart dude. And for Bob Iger and the board to lure him over to Disney from Pepsi was massive. And you said it, Seymour. You said that when it happened, that this was a massive move, and you've been proven right, because he's been one of their best decisions in a long time. So we'll see. We'll absolutely see. Mr. Italiano, where can everybody find you and your polo shirt on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is, Mr. Duck. Where can they find you on social media, sir?
Yeah, you can find me on MrDuck.social, where you can find all my social media links, such as Threads, X, Blue Sky, and Instagram.
There he is, Mr. Seymour Duck. Everybody, thank you so much for watching this breakdown of Disney's quarterly earnings call. These are great. These are fantastic. We love doing these. Seymour, you posted a question in our member tab. We're doing a new thing on the channel now with members, where members can pick a topic and we make an entire video on that topic. If I'm not mistaken, Seymour, your topic was Disney earnings versus Comcast.
Yes.
We got to do that. The Italiano and I are going on a little vacay this week, but when we get back, we'll do that member topic video, because I think that's going to be a very, very spicy, fun video that we'll do that. So look for that, everybody at home, and maybe sometime next week. So that's coming very, very soon. But thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55. And until the next time, see you later.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.